Subordinators help join two clauses in the same sentence. Have a look at the example in black here. Although smoking has increased in some countries, the number of smokers has decreased in other countries. And here the word although is the subordinator. It's like a conjunction, but the difference here is that this conjunction joins two clauses. One is independent and the other is dependent. And they're in the same sentence together, sometimes separated by a comma. Let's look at some examples of common subordinators. There are many, but we're going to look at the ones that are used most frequently. To help us, we're going to look at some examples based on this picture here. So here we have a girl who's collecting things for donations. So this is to do with charities. So have a look at this first example here. So here's the first example phrase that has a subordinator in it. We raised money for charity as well as making some people happy. The subordinator is as well as. And this is a subordinator of addition. So two things which really there's no difference between them. We're just adding one item to another, and they're both fairly similar. So here we have the independent clause. We raised money for charity. This could have been a sentence on its own, so it could have had a full stop there. Then the subordinator as well as, and then the dependent clause, making some people happy. Now here, making some people happy could not be a grammatical sentence on its own. It depends on the first part, because we don't know that it's to do with we here. So if you put a full stop at the end of making some people happy and deleted the rest, it wouldn't make sense. It depends on the first sentence. So as well as tells us we've got some information following which is similar but depends on the first sentence. And we could have used in addition to as well. Our next example is this. We raised the money because ill people needed help. So here we have the word because as a cause and effect subordinator. It could have been replaced with since or as. So here we have the independent clause, we raised the money. Because ill people needed help, well, if we take away the word because, then ill people needed help could be a sentence on its own, but it doesn't make sense without the first bit because we don't know why. So here because links the reason to the statement, cause and effect. There are lots of subordinators of contrast. Here's one. We reached our target in spite of some extra costs that we hadn't been expecting. And in spite of is a contrast subordinator. Now there are lots of these. And here are just some of them. There are more than I've listed, but although, even though, in spite of, whereas and while are some of the most common contrast subordinators. So here we have two sentences joined together by in spite of. And here we have an independent clause. We reached our target. But then a dependent clause, some extra costs that we hadn't been expecting. That makes no sense without the first part. Here are some subordinators which help us to organise: after, before, and when. And we also have some subordinators that are to do with similarity. Just as, or in the same way that, which could sometimes be followed by as. Here's an example of a similarity subordinator. We're going to launch a new charity in the same way that we did last time. So in the same way links the two sentences to tell us there's a strong similarity between the two. The first part is an independent clause. We're going to launch a new charity. That could be a sentence on its own. And then we did last time is dependent. It makes no sense without the first part. So those are some common subordinators. Remember, a subordinator is when you have two clauses. One is dependent, one is independent, and the subordinator links the two clauses within the same sentence.